I've always seen people asking, what is the best team that I can use for the Spiral Abyss? Or what is the best team that I can use for the Imaginarium Theatre? In the past, I've made a video on how you too can create your perfect team with the characters that you have. But what if you just wanted to know which are the best teams that you can use? So, for today's video, let's go through 10 best teams that you can use in version 4.8, in my own personal opinion, before Natlan comes out. Do note that most of these teams will have 5-star characters. I feel that not everyone will want to use a fully 4-star team, nor is Genshin honestly built for that. And you would definitely want to use a 5-star if you have it, or want to know who to pull for. That said, don't worry, I'll provide alternatives for the teams that I recommend in case you don't have a certain character. For the first team, I would recommend the Hu Tao standard team of Yelan, Hu Tao, Zhongli, and Xingqiu. This team is Hu Tao's best team, with Zhongli giving the shielding and elemental resistance down, Yelan and Xingqiu using their burst for Hydro application while also providing the Hydro resonance to increase the HP percentage of the team and hence Hu Tao's HP scaling damage. Yelan's burst will also increase Hu Tao's overall damage thanks to a talent. Then, Hu Tao will use her elemental skill to infuse her normal and charge attacks with Pyro to deal vaporized damage. This team has carried me for the longest time and is still extremely good today. For alternatives, you can go with Albedo or Chiori instead of Yelan, or you can also go for Layla instead of Zhongli or her shield. For the second team, let's go for Hu Tao's new but expensive team of Yelan, Hu Tao, Furina, and Xianyun. Yelan and Furina will provide the Hydro application and also the Hydro resonance once again. While you usually would not want a healer on a team with Hu Tao, Xianyun's burst heals quite slow over time, and coupled with Furina's skill removing HP, will keep Hu Tao's HP low, or at least close enough to half. Anyway, Furina's burst will increase Hu Tao's damage significantly, while Xianyun's burst will enable Hu Tao's strong plunge attack for huge damage, while also having Pyro resistance down with a Viridescent Vanera artifact set. For alternatives, I would swap Yelan for Xingqiu, but that's about it. The main players here are Furina and Xianyun. For the third team, since we are talking about Xianyun, let's go with another team for her. Xiao, Furina, C6 Faruzan, and Xianyun is extremely powerful. Faruzan's C6 is able to boost the team's animal crit damage and also suck enemies in, which helps to mitigate Xiao's weakness of pushing smaller enemies away in his burst. Xianyun will heal and improve Xiao's plunge damage, while Furina is there to provide the increased damage and also some Hydro damage. Finally, the main damage dealer here will be Xiao and his burst. Xiao is finally so much better with the introduction of Xianyun. It seems like MiHoYo finally gave him some love 3 years after he was released. That said, if you want alternatives, I would go with a team of Xiao, Zhongli, or Layla or Diona with Bennett and Jean. Now, for the girl who just got her rerun, Navia. Navia is honestly already very strong with her insane kit. To make her even stronger, I put her in a team with Furina, Zhongli, and Bennett. Furina and Bennett are there to buff her damage and also to provide the 2 elements Navia needs to increase her attack by a total of 40%. It also gives her the chance to produce elemental shards from her elemental burst. Zhongli is there to provide shielding and also the resistance down on enemies so that she can deal even more damage. After everyone uses their respective skills or bursts, Navia can let loose with her own burst to gather shards and deal insane damage with her elemental skill. For alternatives, I would possibly swap Furina with Xingqiu or even Lisa. Lisa is an interesting one as she can provide a 15% defense threat with her burst, which could definitely prove useful to deal more damage. Moving on to Dendro territory. You're going to be so sick of hearing her name in the upcoming teams, but let's be real. Nahida, the Dendro Archon, is just necessary for Dendro teams. In this case, we have a team of Nahida, Elhatem, Xingqiu, and Kuki Shinobu for an insane Hyper Bloom team. Nahida will apply Dendro and the Sea of Skandha to deal insane Dendro damage once reactions are triggered. Xingqiu will apply Hydro to create blooms, and Kuki will use an elemental skill to apply Electro to trigger Hyper Blooms. Elhatem will be there as a driver, reapplying Dendro and activating Xingqiu's burst to repeatedly trigger both blooms, aggravate, and also Hyper Blooms. Enemies will be dispatched in no time. If you want alternatives, I would swap Nahida or Elhatem with the Dendro Traveler to help with the Dendro application. If you don't have Kuki, Raiden or Fischl can be good alternatives as well. Let's go with another Dendro team. For the recently released Chlorinde, I will go with the team of Nahida, Chlorinde, Baitu, and Furina. Nahida will apply Dendro, Baitu will also do the same with the benefit of healing and shielding, and together with Nahida, can give the Dendro residents for higher elemental mastery and hence aggravate damage, but Furina will apply Hydro to trigger blooms and also buff Chlorinde's damage. Chlorinde will then let loose with a skill and normal attacks, triggering aggravate, electro charged, and also Hyper Bloom to deal a lot of damage extremely quickly. For alternatives, I would swap Baitu for Kirara for the shielding, and maybe Furina for Fischl instead for fully aggravate team. Fischl's A4 definitely helps to trigger more aggravates and further increases the team's damage output. Okay, I'm done with Dendro teams for now. Let's go next with Neuvillette. For his team, I'd go with Furina, Neuvillette, Zhongli, and Kazuha. Furina will provide damage increase with a burst, Zhongli will shield, and also help to trigger the Hydro Geo reaction to increase Neuvillette's damage. Kazuha will swirl the Hydro further to increase Neuvillette's damage through his talent, the Viridescent Vanera artifact set, and Kazuha's own skill. Usually you want up to 3 different elemental reactions to unlock Neuvillette's talent to the max, but Furina's damage buff and the Hydro Resonance, which increases Neuvillette's HP and hereby his damage, can help to mitigate that. Neuvillette can then let loose with his high-powered Hydro Pumps. For alternatives, you can go with Layla instead of Zhongli, Sucrose instead of Kazuha, and even Lisa instead of Furina for the defense threat. You can also go with Xiangling to help to trigger more vaporized reactions. Next, for the most free-to-play team that you can have, let's of course talk about the national team. While there are many variations, the one that works best is the Raiden National, with the Raiden Shogun, Xiangling, Xingqiu, and Bennett. Bennett will provide attack buff and healing with his burst. Xiangling, whose burst snapshots, can use her burst in Bennett's burst to apply pyro and deal damage. Xingqiu will apply Hydro with his burst and provide some resistance to interruption with his skill. Finally, Raiden, who capitalizes on everyone using their burst to increase her own personal damage, then uses her burst to deal insane damage and then restore everyone else's energy to do it all over again. For alternatives, you can swap out Raiden for Sucrose or Kazuha, Child, or even Nahida. They're all honestly just variations of the national team. For the knife team, let's of course talk about the father, the team of Yelan, Arlecchino, Kazuha, and Bennett. Yelan applies Hydro and buffs damage, Kazuha does his usual of damage buffing and resistance threat, Bennett buffs attacks and also activates the Pyro Resonance for increased attack for the team. Arlecchino then unleashes her normal attacks to dispatch of the enemies very quickly. To be honest, while the mentioned team is strong, I do honestly prefer more sustainability with Albedo and Zhongli instead of Yelan and Kazuha. But you know, you do you. Before I move on to the final team, I would also like to mention Ayaka's freeze team of Ayaka, Xingqiu, Kazuha, and Shenhe. It's a premium team for sure, but it is so far the undefeated freeze team, especially if you are looking to use Ayaka. It's not on the list because while strong, freeze unfortunately doesn't work that well on larger enemies that cannot be frozen. I would also like to mention a unique Eula team of Nahida C2, Eula, Mika C6, and Lisa. Nahida at C2 can shred up to 30% of defense while aggravate is triggered, C6 Mika will buff physical damage, and Lisa will activate the aggravate and also lowers the enemy's defense by 15% with her burst. Eula is not on the main list due to the cost of this team and also the fact that physical doesn't really have a place in Genshin's meta due to a huge presence of shields and enemies that has a resistance to physical damage. For the final team, I'm gonna go with someone who actually has not had his rerun yet, Ryovsli. The team of Ryovsli, Xiangling, Shenhe, and Bennett. Xiangling will apply Pyro with a burst, Bennett will provide the attack buff as usual, and also when coupled with Xiangling, help to boost the team's attack with the Pyro Resonance. Shenhe can then use a skill and burst to boost Ryovsli's cryo damage. The effect is basically Ryovsli triggering strong melt damage with his normal and charged attacks. Alternatives here would be to swap Xiangling with Kazuha or Sucrose for the cryo resistance shred, or Zhongli for the shielding. With that, we've covered what I consider are my 10 best teams before Natlan releases. Do you agree with my picks? Or do you have your own? Feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's video, also feel free to give us a like and subscribe to help this small channel get to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much! If you'd like to see which standard banner character is the most worth it to build, please click the video on the right. If you would like to see other Genshin Impact videos that I've made, please click the playlist on the left. Once again, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye!